Welcome to the Nexus Unloaded podcast. This is Will Crozier.
And I'm Nikki Westcombe. We are the founders of Nexus Performance. Joining us on this wild ride is our heavyweight coaching team, ready to unleash their expertise to solve any problems in your journey to getting strong and jacked.
Through our real-world experience, we hope to break things down in a digestible, applicable, and entertaining way.
So pump up the volume and let's get into this.
So kicking off into another podcast. This will be our second last of the year, even though we've recorded these in the opposite order.
This is going to be done on the 29th.
The recap will. And
okay. So this one's coming this.
Yep.
Real.
This is the second last of the year, and then the next then we'll have the new year one, which will be 2024 kind of, I guess, plans. And when
Goals.
I say plans, plans, goals, they change rapidly, which we learned in we learned this year.
Yes.
We learned this year that there were a lot of things that were planned. But actually, I think we did pretty good with sticking to the plans. There were just a few new plans, which is
It's just adaptations to those plans.
Yeah, they were normal. That's pretty normal. You know, a year's a long time, and those things change as we learn. We try things, and they do or don't happen.
Yeah.
And I feel like we always change for the better. Anyway,
We learn from it at least.
Yeah. But this one is a little bit more of a generic topic.
I think it's generic in the sense of what the topic is, but I think it actually just provides a little bit more context. Just plenty of things we talk about a lot.
Yeah, so the broad topic for today is our, I guess, like mine and yours, like favorite squat, bench, and deadlift accessories or variations.
Likely.
And the reason why I say that it's not so straightforward is I feel like if we just did this once off, it would sound straightforward. It would sound like, oh yeah, these are mine and yours favorite squat, bench, and deadlift accessories, and end of it.
Yeah.
You know, but in reality,
That's not the case.
No. It's kind of like it's more about what you're doing right now, and you kind of go through phases of like, I'm enjoying this thing now, and I'm enjoying that thing now, and I'm enjoying putting this thing in for clients. And we always say, like in the mentorship and you'll see online posts around this, is like, you know, don't get caught up in like what your favorite thing is now, and don't get given that to a lot of people, and, you know, try to focus on the person. And that's true, but like, you're a bit of a bullshitter if you don't understand that you're going to have some in the moment bias, some recency bias.
100% there's going to be bias.
You're going to be biased with like, what the fuck I saw today.
Well, as a coach, you should also always be learning. And like, there's different things you learn or implement or adapt or change or trial yourself. And then you're like, okay,
always
cool.
learning, always trying, always working shit out, always trying to make things. And not only that, but you're always have got that recency bias. You're always working on things and evolving. And you're always going to be a little bit biased with what you're experiencing with right now, maybe through what course you're going through, with what coach you're working with. I don't know. There's a million things with that. But it changes constantly because we're evolving as people as well. We're learning new things. We're implementing new things. We're figuring out new ways. And the amount of things that can tick a box in it from a training aspect is extremely broad. And we've talked about this, but like, if I wanted to make it easy, hypertrophy is pretty easy. If I wanted to get bigger biceps, there are quite a few exercises that can tick that box.
Absolutely.
In different ways. You can train elbow flexion, which is one of the primary things that the biceps do, in different positions. You can train it from a flexed position. You can train it from a shoulder extension position. You train it from an out to the side position, and they'll all kind of challenge your bicep in slightly different ways. But there are a million different exercises that can do that. Each of those things that crossover for each of those things. You can do just different implements for those things, and then you can train. It's much more. It's not very loadable, but you can train straight arm biceps, as in like, and you can do that through the whole fucking range as well. So biceps can be trained in multiple ways, and there are many boxes, many implements many exercises that can tick that, based on what we have available to us, what we enjoy, and so like there's just so many things that can be done, and that goes for every muscle in the body, and for hypertrophy. We can get stronger at SBD even through many different avenues. We can get faster. We can get more powerful. And we can train for different sports in a specific way, in many different ways, which if you've hung around powerlifting long enough, you'll know is very much a thing.
Yes.
And to say one is better or worse than another is not a thing.
It's very narrow-minded.
Very narrow-minded.
There'll be people who try and sell you on that.
And it's
this is the approach.
Which
this
is
the way to do it. This is
because
how you do it, and this is why. It's like, that's great.
You're going to believe a thing,
Yes.
and you are entitled to try and sell it and to try and convince people that that's the way to go about it, and that's the fucking way the world works. I'm here to tell you, there's a multitude of things that work, and belief is fucking part of why it works. And the way I like to, and I've said this on multiple podcasts this year, but if you're new to our methodologies, welcome. But basically, we're powerlifters, or we're soccer players, or we're footballers, or we're strongmen, or we're bodybuilders at the top of the pile, at the peak of the pyramid. Below that, we're athletes in general. Where we pursue athletic endeavors and the multitude of different general qualities which make up athletic endeavors.
Mm-hmm.
So, and all of those carry into powerlifting to some degree. And then to step it back further from that, we're humans. We all have the same or similar muscles. We have the same sort of organs, the same sort of structure, the same bones.
Yeah.
To some degree. We're slightly different, maybe, if we want to get into the nitty-gritty, but who gives a fuck about that?
Like that? No one cares.
We're pretty damn similar as humans at the base level of that. So if we get better as humans and efficient humans and more healthy humans, we're probably going to be better athletes. And then if we get better at general athletic qualities, then we're probably going to be better at the specific thing on top of that. So that's a very quick breakdown of how we view performance and how Nexus Performance views performance. It's true, we do mainly work with powerlifters just through our history, but I'm more than open to working with many different people and getting them to realize that. So when you view it as that pyramid, when you view it as that bigger picture, obviously, you realize that there is a very broad spectrum as to what can work. And that's why I have broadened the topic of what we're going to talk about today from favorite SBD accessories to more favorite SBD accessories recently.
Which I think is actually...
Currently.
is good at the moment, especially because yourself and myself are both in different phases, but similar phases. Like we're both in, I guess, what you'd almost call like quote unquote restorative, or a little bit like more hypertrophy based and things like that. Like we're working on different things.
An off season,
exactly. But our approach to our off season at the moment is quite different.
Yeah, for sure.
Between the two of us, at least, and then that
for sure, and that comes
But they both have the same intended goal, long term, of better performance on the platform.
Better performance.
Better performance in general as a human, but
as an athletic
long term platform performance.
As an athlete. Yeah. And my definite long-term goal is to get back to the platform and still to tick off those goals that I've been talking about for years now. And we're in different places of our training kind of careers. We're in different places throughout the year. We're in different places as people.
Yep.
So no doubt that that approach is going to look a little bit different when it comes to the training structure. And Yeah, we definitely are doing very, very different things in the gym right now, which I'll get into, and I think in a later episode. I don't want to delve into our actual training right now, but we just want to, I wanted to bring in and get people to understand that there is some recency bias and there is some kind of what we're doing bias to this, because that's just how it is.
It's how you are as a person and as a coach.
It's just what's happening, right? So, yeah, let's go through what our squat, bench, and deadlift, what are the current things that we're giving to the powerlifters that are in their more specific phases, that are working towards things, and what we're doing, what we enjoy, what we're doing for our SBD qualities specifically, and why at the moment. Because, and when we've talked about this in the past, we've talked about, to break it down a little bit more, variations and like broader accessories. Because broader accessories, like if I talked about your favorite hypertrophy movement, it's sort of different to your favorite squat movement.
Well, yeah, definitely.
Your favorite quad movements is probably different to your favorite squat movements, I guess.
We've definitely covered like variations and things like that in the past, deadlift, Romanian deadlifts, stiff legs, etc. Like your general, more basic sort of things that you would look at. I guess in terms of at the moment, especially for me, any of my guys who I guess doing a bit more specific work is the basics. The basics work. Your bread and butter. You squat, bench, deadlift work. Like
Well, let's talk about let's before we get to it.
Normal.
Maybe before we put names to things, maybe why would you pick a particular exercise for a person? Because like I could say, deficit deadlifts, and deficit deadlifts. If you get stronger at a smaller deficit deadlift, I can guarantee it's going to carry to your deadlift, because it's pretty much the fucking same thing. As much as people try to tell you it's vastly different, it's not. It's slightly different. And that's the whole fucking point of variations, is that there are a slight variation on the thing, so that we change the bias of how that exercise works, make the sticking point or the weak point slightly different for somebody, so that they can get better at developing their particular weak point in that lift, and it's going to carry over directly back to the thing because it's fucking similar.
Yes.
That's the whole point behind them. But when you're looking at somebody, how are you going to pick a variation if they all work?
Honestly, sometimes we've already said it, like you've already nailed it. There's a little bit of recency bias. I am definitely someone who I tinker with things quite a lot myself, and I will give, like once I've tinkered with something for a long enough time and can see maybe ways either I can improve it or ways I could fuck it up or whatever that might be.
Ways
then it'd be like, okay, this might be harder, this might be easier, this is blah, 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 blah. Then I can sit there and be like, okay, cool. Am I confident enough now to give this to a client? Or there might be something that I've recently watched or learned or viewed or whatever. And I'm like, okay, cool. Well, why don't I just trial something? And it's never as if it's like an uneducated approach. Like I'm not just going to go out and give some weird ass fancy exercise that I've just seen randomly on a 10-second TikTok. But just slight variations. Like I'll give an example of like a slight variation I've given quite a few of my clients at the moment is a lying down face pull. So they're lying on their back on a bench doing a face pull, pulling towards their head, still doing a high face pull. They're just now doing it on the bench.
Yep.
And the reason is stability. Yep. I see too many people when they're doing their face pulls, which at the end of the day, like if you realistically think about what we're doing for a face pull, we're trying to drive a little bit more external rotation. We're trying to get a little bit more of the rear delts, rhomboids, etc. Like trying to open up the shoulders a little bit.
And overarching to all that, you're trying to drive hypertrophy to some degree.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. We're trying to drive some form of growth or adaptation. But then when you see people and they're doing face pulls and they're like throwing everything into it and their arms are flailing and they're like rep to rep is so different. And I saw, it might be a little bit of a trend at the moment on a couple of YouTube videos or whatever, but I've seen one or two guys do it. I was like, I'm going to try that out myself. I did it 2 sessions and I was like, this is the best my rear delts have ever felt. I can get into a nice, good controlled position, can squeeze it quite comfortably, push it quite hard without sort of feeling like I'm then sort of using too much momentum. And I've given it to a couple of clients just more or less as like a bit of a warm-up drill or a hypertrophy-based drill towards the end of the session. And yeah, they've been
people that need it.
Yeah, for the people that need it, which most people within powerlifting definitely need some form of external rotation through their shoulders a little bit more.
Yeah.
To help counteract all the internal rotation we get into.
Yeah, and then that can go down an absolute ridiculous rabbit hole of just shoulder movement in general, because the shoulders are there's a lot of moving parts.
As we said, just getting I think it's just getting people moving is
in different ways.
as humans, as a basis,
Yep.
getting people moving in different ways as humans to make them better athletes, to make them better whatever they want to be. They're powerlifting, soccer, footy, hockey, whatever.
Yeah. Well, the guide to your sport, in like the thing that you do in this case, like powerlifting, is the kind of the guide to what you need to do when you're not coming into a comp. So when you're coming into a comp, you're doing SBD, you're doing close variations, you're doing things that bolster that affect, that are going to train prime movers, that are going to like fill gaps maybe if you've got like a little injury or a niggle happening. But everything in the program is based around prioritization and, putting energy into the main movements and getting you the best practice on those movements, the best chance to improve on those movements.
Yes.
That's a necessity of the sport and getting better at it. Like you just can't not do that and expect to be your absolute best on those three movements. What we do outside of it is like when we're talking about what is the best accessory, we're talking about like what is this person crap at, essentially.
Yeah. What are they lacking? Where do they need the work to be put? What work did they want to do?
And questions that can that drive that is definitely like enjoyment, or what do they want to do? What do they miss doing in the gym that they haven't been that hasn't been available
What have they
to
been
them during the
avoiding?
prep? Yeah, maybe a little bit of that. Does their endurance lack? Does their are they a bit fragile? Are they scared to fucking go down the steps because they are scared that their knees are going to explode or that things are going to hurt? Because we want to get out of that mindset. So maybe we're going to program some things in there that expose them to those stimuli and positions that are going to make them a little less scared to be human underneath the powerlifter.
Yeah.
There can be they're lacking muscle in a particular muscle group. They sit at a fucking desk all day and are hunched over, and they've developed some postural sort of biases. And I don't want to dive into posture too much, and because it's such a fucking stupid conversation, but I guess all of these questions and many, many more can come into like what are the best for somebody. So again, it's just I just keep feeling like I need to say this because like this isn't a hey, these are the best 3 exercises and you should just go do these blindly, and you still want to look at your weaknesses, at your sports demands, at things that you suck at, and also at things you really enjoy, and then kind of come up with the things that kind of tick as many of those boxes as possible, and bring them in, and then they're probably going to be your best accessories.
Yeah.
I think
I could give my 3 favorite at the moment that I'm doing.
Yeah. Let's do that.
Okay.
Let's go. And how are we going to define access? Are we going to like not variations of SBD?
It's hard to say because like I'll say mine and then we'll decide. Let's do that. Okay. Let's do that. So for me at the moment, my favorite squat or quad based movement is actually an SSB squat.
Okay. Why?
So just purely because of the fact that I am able to stay in a better position, sit deeper, feel a little bit more comfortable without necessarily having to worry about the load as much, because you're sort of limiting the load just a little bit because it's a little bit more of an anteriorly loaded squat.
Still very loadable, but yeah.
But for me, something I identified obviously post-comp, I need to squat deeper. So I straight away found the best variation or exercise that is going to get me to help getting comfortable squatting deeper. And it's just an exercise I just loved. Like I fucking love SSB. Yeah. I love doing SSB. It's comfortable on my shoulders. Like I can get in a nice position. I can do higher volume on SSB than any other squat.
Yeah. When you're looking at squatting deeper, it's picking exercises that allow you to squat deeper.
Yeah, get
probably
deeper,
a good
hip and knee flexion.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that you're instantly going to be able to squat deeper when you get back to.
No, it's something that's actually something that I did have to almost take even though I knew it, it was like kind of like, okay, cool. I'm not just going to be able to magically squat deeper because I'm now doing SSB. It's like I need to actually build into and adapt into this position a little bit more comfortably.
Yeah,
and
it's a multifaceted
that's
thing.
Just my favorite.
Something that we've actually done a podcast.
Yeah,
so.
That's my favorite like sort of squat movement. My favorite bench at the moment is actually just an incline Smith machine press.
Okay.
Because I'm deep into a massive cut. So my stability and everything like that through my shoulders is a little bit less at the moment, just losing.
I wouldn't say your stability
It's
is
not
less,
so much
it's maybe
stability,
the
it's just
focus.
the mass around that area is like I've lost 7 kilos or something.
It's also that when you're in an off season, like it's the time detriment that comes with a squat, bench, and deadlift. Like
Absolutely, I don't need to warm up for bench and I take too long when I warm up for bench anyway. But
well, even rep to rep or set to set, like there's a lot of things. Like you put your wrist wraps on, you got to get really like super fucking focused so that you go, okay, leg drive, shoulders, or that crap. You know, like the many like the little steps that you should be thinking, the technique checklist that's gone through your head that you should be thinking. Like it's an involved process to bench or to squat or to deadlift heavy when you're a powerlifter, because it's the actual fucking sport. Just like where, like if I was going to, if I did jiu-jitsu or some shit, like they would probably have the same sort of thing. Like they would have a very involved process. Whereas if I just went and did jiu-jitsu for some conditioning on the side for me, and it wasn't my sport and I'm doing powerlifting, I'll probably just fuck around a little bit. It wouldn't be that
probably
involved.
Get injured a little bit too, potentially.
Maybe, but I'm just saying that like the conditioning stuff that we have incorporated a little bit of, I'm not, that's not my sport. So it's just like, it's not as thoughtful.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And
so all that shit takes so long, and it fucking,
it's been fun. I just sit in the
you can get more
chair.
work done. Yeah.
I don't need, exactly that. I don't necessarily, and this isn't saying I don't focus on these things, but I don't necessarily need to be like so locked in and dialed in.
Yeah,
and
technique
it's just like,
doesn't have to be anything close.
You just go, you just push. And I can sit there and literally push to the point where I can't get it off my chest. You just hook it back over and slide out from under it, and you feel like you're safe to push it to complete failure and things like that. Yeah, which I actually have been thoroughly enjoying with some of my work at the moment.
Well, failure.
Yeah, going to the point of like actually failing a rep.
Yeah,
muscular failure, not necessarily technical failure.
Yeah, that can be exciting a little bit, because in powerlifting, again,
I don't want to go to failure under a big, heavy, low bar squat.
No, and you don't really want to, even in a reps or in your safety bars or whatever, just because. Like it's like you said, your goal with squatting is to get, at the moment anyway, like better at squatting deeper, which means more control, which means, a lot of moving parts have got to align to allow for that to happen when it gets back to heavy. So right now it's a very very thoughtful thing that you're putting there, which means, and you can't do that when you're training at RP10.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
You've got to
go balls to the wall. Like on some of these Smith machine sets, like there's probably one or two things that fall apart a little bit, and I'm like, but I'm happy to go. I'm like, fuck, let's go for it.
Yeah,
and just drive.
Like it's the same with if I'm training a footy player to squat, I'm not like absolutely like super worried about if their knees cave a little bit, or if their upper back tightness breaks down a little bit, or if their brace isn't great. I'm like, it's not your sport. Who gives a fuck? Just go hard. So it's slightly different when you're not doing this sport. So it's not a skill.
Yeah, exactly. And then deadlift is just RDL. I've been really enjoying RDLs at the moment. Just opening up a bit of range. Yeah, pushing pretty hard.
How many reps?
Sets of 8.
Too many.
Yeah. So I got 3x8 the other day. I did 170, 180, 180.
Nah, it's pretty good.
So
yeah, eight's right in the strike zone.
Eight's pretty comfortable getting through to like hard enough that it's like getting a decent amount of top end work in, but also like
not an endurance act.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not just sitting there just flailing for the sake of it, but I've just been enjoying opening up hip like range and things like that again, getting a bit more length through the hammies, getting a bit more length through the glutes, like just finding position.
You're working on finding a bit more range in them too?
Yeah, just in both, like just trying to, with other accessories as well, like my single leg press and things like that, like we're working on range and trying to build strength through that range and whatnot. So I think it's one of those things that for me, I'm really enjoying it. Like it's just fun.
The RDLs.
All of it really.
Yeah.
Like there's fun for different things. Like the SSB I'm enjoying because I'm allowing myself to know long term that like, hey, I'm actually building confidence and strength in a deeper squat. My bench, like the Smith machine, I'm just broing out, pushing fucking hard, having fun, getting a bit of a pump and trying to see what I can do on that for the time being before I know, once we go back to like a normal bench, it's going to be pretty stock standard and things like that. And then the RDLs are like a good combination of the two. Like it's controlled enough to really build the skill and work through that range, but then it's also like you can bro out a little bit and push them pretty fucking hard.
Yeah.
Like I'd never do sets of 8 deadlifts. It would just flog me. Like absolutely annihilate me.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't do it.
It's just I no, well, it's not the goal with that.
Yeah, exactly. It's
like,
a different output-based goal, I guess, for me.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
Massively
it's an exercise that's designed to get the whole body involved and move a lot of weight. So typically it doesn't make sense to go to high reps because like you've got so many muscles working together that unless you're doing it for a pure patterning thing, it's just like kind of what's the point behind it?
Yeah.
It's like trying to use a snatch to grow muscle. It's like what's the
yes.
It isn't suited for the task. So yeah. Anyway, so my training has been very much different to yours in terms of like that's what you laid out there is very similar to how my like powerlifting off seasons have been to some degree. Because powerlifters, we tend to live in our bubble a little bit for good reason because it's a simple sport. It's 3 lifts, and as long as you're getting some practice on those, you can get away with a little bit of variety. But usually, like just getting more jacked is typically
helpful.
Well, it's definitely very helpful for powerlifting because like we don't have to be like super athletic in other ways. We don't have to. We can be really stiff and get away with it. We can be pretty unfit and get away with it. But there's a lot of like general training qualities that we can get away with being pretty subpar and still be damn good powerlifters. Yeah, some would argue maybe they add more injury risk or whatever, but like
blessing and a curse, I think.
You can really, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but it's a very specific sport and you can get away with a lot of like downfalls and just really focus on a couple of the big key attributes that apply to it.
Yeah.
So recently my training has been a little bit of a mix of that, but to give people a bit of an insight, there has been, I guess, something missing from my training in that it's just been difficult for me mentally to connect with training in the last, I guess, like year or two, because like I've hit all these big numbers in the past. I've been there, and then for multiple reasons, like the diabetic stuff, life stuff, business stuff, all this sort of stuff that has led to training being a little bit on the back burner. And then I was at this point of, and just like my knee and just some injuries, like little niggles like that just won't seem to piss off. So like, all these factors have led to just like not enjoying training and not feeling like I'm making progression in training, which then loops back to the enjoyment of training. And then it kind of just pisses me off to some degree because it was like, I think we've lost our video.
Does that mean it's flat?
I don't know, but we can leave that. The voices are still working. Yeah, leave it. And then, and then it's just led to this place now where it's just like, I know that the first domino to fall in the, rather than just trying to push shit uphill, the first domino to fall in getting an effective training outcome for me is just enjoying training and just actually fucking, wanting to come and wanting to put in effort. Because once you tick that box off, then the next box to fall is like, okay, how can I like concentrate that effort a little bit more and make that effort a little bit more effective? And then once you do that, then it can, it leads on to the other things. But the first box to tick is always enjoying it. If you're just pushing yourself through some hard weeks, you can only do it for so long. You can do it for a prep for the last, I don't know, 6 to 8 weeks, I would say.
I think 8 weeks is pretty good max to push really hard.
Where you're just like grinding it out and it's kind of shit and you're not going to enjoy it, but you're like, fuck it. And then it's all for something because you've got a PB. Right. So yeah, it's been in this place with that where it's just a little bit difficult. So I've really mixed it up as of late. So it's kind of hard to put through my favorite accessories on it. Because as far as SBD goes, I'm just looking at the program here that I've been running, and it's been like just similar stuff with the squats. Really been doing just kind of like what I can. Recently, I've just cut out squats altogether just because they make my knee hurt, which in turn makes my hip hurt. And then I go for my morning walk and I'm like, fuck, this sucks. Like, what the fuck am I doing? So like I've actually cut them out and I've just been doing like leg press. Our hippie leg press here is much more
forgiving.
It's more of a hip based. Yeah, it's more of it like you bend a lot more at the hip than you do at the knee. So there's a lot more hip going on. So if I was to say squat accessory that I've been enjoying most. It's that I've been actually making some really good progress on that too, and in both the bilateral and single leg variations of it, and pushing that through, being able to not piss off my knee essentially, which. And this is what I mean, is that like there's a need and there's a want and there's a like, why are we doing things, and like quote unquote favorite accessories, and sometimes they aren't your favorite because of it's going to carry over or whatever. It's your favorite because that's what you can do at the moment, and that's what you're enjoying because it's making progress at the moment.
Yep.
So a slightly different lens through that. A big favorite one, a staple that's been around for a long time, is just the 45-degree hyper. It's kind of like between it and RDLs, kind of like the two hip hinges that have jumped between, because deadlifts have never been something to me that I've needed a lot of, I guess, variation on. I'm just like, if you just do heavy ass deadlifts, it tends to, for me anyway, just get better. And like I'll use like maybe a small deficit or use a stiff bar to deadlift. I'm like, that'll be my variations. I'm not changing much because like there's no fucking point. Just work hard on deadlifts and they improve. But RDLs with you, but lately even taking a step back from them and doing just like 45-degree hypers, a bit of a staple for me.
Yeah.
We don't even have a glute bridge or like a hip thrust machine in the gym, despite some people wanting one. I just think 45-degree hyper is a better exercise for making you do it right.
Yes.
And like stressing the tissues that you really want to be stressing. To put it simply, easier to hold technique, I should say. So like it, and being able to push hard with that, like Pete Ruby style, like fucking holding a bar in the hands. I feel like is a hip accessory that's worth doing. The bench pressing, I'm going to say I've been hitting some bench press, but it's really been like work up to a heavy set of 3 to 5, and then maybe do a couple of back offs, and that's about it, because it's more of a maintenance sort of thing for me. And that's honestly enough. You don't need much more.
Yeah.
In my experience. But the chest press that we've been on home, the integrity one, I'll go home after the session and I'll hit that. And it'll be coming to the gym soon.
I want to play with
it. But it's one of the few chest presses and shoulder presses that I have used where I've actually really, really liked it. And being able to train similar to what you said, like at failure, and still feel it, like the tension in my chest.
Yes.
So it's a bit of a cop out to say chest press, but like it's fucking that particular one and the way it lines up, the being able to adjust it out so you're not starting, like, you know how the hammer strength one starts too low.
You're always wedged. Even I think
it's not even plates just under it and shit.
I don't even think it's just hammer strength. I think it's a majority of like set structured chest and shoulder presses.
No, they always start too far back.
To start a little bit too. Well, they got to accommodate for such a wide array of people. Like if they start too far in front, then you got people who are short who can't physically get the stretch at all, and then it's redundant for them too.
Yeah, you have to put a plate under it.
It's hard, even like.
But this one adjusts, and you can kind of like put it perfectly like where it ends for you.
Yeah, mint.
And
or you got to get one of the bros to like lift it up for you so you can wedge yourself in to start your set.
Yeah. No, I'm not about that. So yeah, I've been killing that. And then so that's bench, and then went through that. Very, very recently, as in like literally in the last week or two.
5 days.
I've been like broadening out even more. And this is hard to say it's an accessory to those lists, because it's not. And that's why earlier I wanted to say that
it's an accessory to being a better human.
Yes, it's an accessory to being just better in general. It doesn't really, quote unquote, carry over into squat, bench, and deadlift. But one thing that you'll learn if you stick around the fitness industry long enough is that literally everything carries over to everything. Like if you just get better at things, unless you're at the upper echelons or at the very end of a peak process, like I said earlier, then of course you need to be specific about what you're trying to get better at. But if you just get better at like general fitness, general strength, general maybe moving faster, moving, just being better, like being more confident in your body, not being scared of shit hurting. That's any of these any of these attributes all eventually carry over to everything in a way if you just get better at training, honestly. So a good friend of mine, Brendan Nicardi, he's given me a couple of Olympic lifts to chuck in, very, very regressed ones. He isn't just like, hey, hit a fucking full snatch.
Is that because we got an Alico weightlifting bar and plates?
No, that
Is
actually just timed.
Happy coincidence, or is that planned?
No. We definitely bought the other equipment, and that just came as part of the package deal. So we do, for some reason, have an Olympic
weightlifting bar.
Yeah. Plus some Alico weightlifting plates, bumpers in the gym. So I was like, well, fuck it.
May as well.
But I may as well use them. They're here, but that wasn't the plan. No. But yeah, so I've been doing just a little bit of enough to kind of like do without impacting the overall plan, I guess, of being a powerlifter. There's just some like some clean pulls, some muscle snatches, some real light ones of them. This week we did the conditioning class on this weekend just gone, which involved like sort of a variety of everything, CrossFitty. Just med ball throws I've been incorporating. This week I'll be doing some hill sprints. Put the driveway to good use. It's
anyone who doesn't know, Will and Mickey's driveway is basically the Mount Everest of driveways. It is the shittest thing to walk, drive, anything up at all, anything at all.
But I'm starting with hill sprints because I didn't want to buy like a sled to try and regress it that way. And when I say regress, I mean just change them. Because if I just run out and just start doing like sprints down the track or whatever, I'll absolutely tear my
hamstrings,
quads, plus the rest of it off. Because I don't know how to run. I'm not skilled in running. Yes. So again, when I said the 45-degree hyper, I said you want to give yourself the best chance of getting it right. Hill sprints are pretty much that when it comes to running, because you can't like stride out and then overextend yourself and end up in a fucked position and tear muscles off. You kind of like, it's short, sharp,
have to stay choppy over your torso sort of thing.
Yeah, you can't really fuck it up as much. So we're starting there, and well, I'm starting there, I mean, and just incorporate, some of that. So I'll keep everyone up to date and all that. Will it carry over? Can we really view it as an SBD accessory? I don't think so. I don't think Google...
Not a direct SBD, but as we said, human athlete.
Yeah, specific. So I'm incorporating some of that. I'm incorporating some general conditioning to try and bring my fitness up, and like some ollie lifts just because it's a different movement, and I want to be slightly a beginner again in ways that are going to eventually carry over. But my definite goal is to get back and then hit those big lifts. So you're not going to see me in the Olympics anytime soon. That's for sure.
I think that's an important little like note as well. You didn't mention it just then about like becoming a beginner at things. I think sometimes people get so caught up, and you're probably someone who's definitely more at the upper echelon of like powerlifting and things like that, like with what you've achieved and where your strength has been and things like that. So in comparison to like maybe someone else coming up, but being a beginner at things is actually really fucking fun. Like we were all beginners at training at one point and we found enjoyment out of it, whether that be in the gym or as some sort of sport or something like that. Like being a beginner is fun to learn to do things. And once you work out that like, hey, all of this shit is going to help me to some degree at some point, whether it be like just as a human, as an athlete, as a powerlifter, whatever it might be, like once you actually see that for what it is, like myself at the moment, basically doing full blown bodybuilder spec hypertrophy, 6 days, push pull legs. Like
I think way too much thought is put into
how's this going to carry over? What's this going to do? Why is this going to
carry
do this?
over in general is a bit of a bullshit thing, but like, well, it isn't a bullshit thing. It's definitely a thing, but at the right time. It's
overemphasized.
And then just general like stimulus, fatigue, recovery, like all these things are really important general concepts, but like almost like if you focus on them too much, you can definitely hold yourself back. Like if you're worried about how this exercise is going to fatigue me and how how recovered you're going to be on a day-to-day basis too much all the time.
Boring.
Yeah.
You almost walk around worried about everything.
Yeah. You just go.
Is this going to affect this? Oh, I can't actually go out and kick the footy with mates because it's going to affect this the next day or some shit. It's like, kind of want to just be able to do things. And
you want to
fun.
think about risk to some degree.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. I'm not saying go out and start playing tackle footy with your mates in the park if you've never run in 6 years, and then all of a sudden you get slammed and your
There
ACL's
is a way
gone.
to include everything else.
But it's more just like, yeah, as you said, like become a bit of a beginner, learn some different things,
Yeah.
and you can incorporate some of the things you learn from that into maybe some of your lifts.
Yeah. If you want to be the best powerlifter,
yeah,
take more of the route that you've gone right now. If you want to take the longer scenic route, like me, and just then don't be afraid to
but
get
you also
outside
said
your
that
box.
at the very start of the podcast. Is like we're both in very different
spots
with powerlifting. Like you've been doing it for nearly 10 years or something.
Yeah.
7 years, 8 years.
I'll come back to it.
I'm 3 years in. So I'm still at the point where like
you're still learning.
I'm still learning. I'm still a beginner. I would still class myself as a novice competitor.
Still learning SBD to some degree.
Still learning what works best for me, how to like better refine things.
I feel like I could jump back into, this Pro Roll prep was almost a good example of it. So like I almost jumped back into it.
You did like 6 weeks of proper prep.
And even then it was like it
Scattered.
was a few sets of each a week type thing. But yeah, I think I could get back to them and re-pick up that skill very quickly. So the skill is not needed. I just need to enjoy training, push hard, work on the general qualities, and then come back to powerlifting. I feel like I'd be right.
Yeah, whereas I'm probably someone who is in the other end of the basket where I need to keep a bit more of that skill-based stuff in there because I am still learning.
Yeah.
I'm still learning how to refine different things. So
yeah. So as always, our podcast topics end up kind of well off topic. I wouldn't say this is well off topic, but it's much more broad than maybe the notes, as always.
That's fine. I think it provides good context for people.
But
I think it provides thought.
Yes, exactly.
People
it's just training thoughts, training dumps.
Think about things differently and not get so caught up in like, this is it. Like this is the one approach.
Yeah.
Because there is so much more to it.
Exactly. So I'm going to go hit some a little bit of bench pressing as well as a lot of different odd stuff.
I got upper pull.
And yeah, very different sessions.
Row split. Start off with T-bar row, single arm prime row.
Yeah. All right.
Biceps.
Well, let's go hit that.
Let's get it.
But I hope this was insightful into our philosophies at Nexus and training ideas, as well as a little bit more on our insights to SBD and how you choose your favorite accessories and stuff like that. Cool.
Thank you for listening to the Nexus Unloaded podcast. Be sure to jump on our website to find details on everything mentioned in the podcast today, plus information on our coaching, mentoring, and gyms based in the Gold Coast and Townsville. Make sure you follow us on our Instagram for any updates on what we are currently doing, and we'll see you all in the next episode.